Well, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Janice Hooker Fortman, and it's the Relationship Matters Show. I want to thank all of you for tuning in this evening, and I hope that you will get something really great out of this show. And I want to encourage all of you to join in. If you have a question, if you have a comment, just put them in the chat box. Tonight, we're going to talk about how do we cope with the challenges as far as the losses that we have had during COVID-19. And when I'm talking about losses, I'm talking about losses of lifestyle. All kinds of lifestyles. I'm talking about vacations, socializations, weddings, celebrations, just being around your family. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how we are coping with it. And if you are having trouble coping with it, then maybe you'll get some tips and some tools. But something that I want to start out with. As a global community, we're living through a situation unlike anything that we've ever witnessed. And unfortunately, we really don't know when the end in sight is. So it's normal to be experiencing some fear and some grief, even if you haven't lost someone to the virus. It has all of us, this coronavirus has all of us learning to deal with unprecedented loss of lifestyles. And as I said, it can be vacations, it can even be your routines, your job, social outings. Even some people are experiencing the fear of just being evicted. And it has a lot of people feeling isolated in their homes, detached from loved ones and anxious about their livelihoods. It's taken a toll on a lot of us. And it's easy when you start thinking about the loss of your lifestyle. Sometimes we feel guilty because people have lost their lives. People have lost lives of loved ones. And some of us, we're thinking, okay, well, I haven't lost that, but I'm feeling like I shouldn't really be grieving or even thinking about the losses that I have, because the losses that I have are really nothing when you think about it, when it's compared to people who have really, really suffered during this pandemic. So what I want to do is bring in two speakers today, or two of my special guests, and we're just going to have a conversation on the losses that we have suffered and the losses that we feel that is something that kind of gets to us. I want to start off with me before I bring them in and what losses that I'm trying to cope with. First of all, it's the loss of not being able to be around my family. In other words, especially my son, and my close friends. We don't have physical contact. And a lot of times I just sit and kind of think about it, and it just kind of really gets into my head, and it makes me really, really sad. So I'm trying to cope with it, really, like a lot of you out there, on a daily basis. Also, I miss my vacations. My husband and I are used to going on a vacation every year, maybe 2 or 3 places, and sometimes out of the country. And this year we had to cancel 2 of our vacations. One was a cruise that we go on almost every year. And another one when we go to our timeshare. And it's kind of like, now what? We're just kind of sitting around talking about, oh, I really hate that I can't go, and actually sometimes I even dream about it. But we're going to talk about other losses and other people's losses. So I want to bring in my first special guest, who is Loisteen Wood Walker. Hi, Loisteen. How are you? And you are muted. I cannot hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm here. Hi,
Okay.
how are you? And thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Loisteen. Although, let me tell people, I have known Loisteen for how many years, Loisteen?
About 50 something years.
50 something years. I don't know how that could be since I'm only 39,
Yep.
but evidently. But tell us about you, Loisteen.
Well, again, I consider Jan as my big sister because we lived in the same neighborhood and exactly right across the road from each other. We shared that in our younger years. I actually was a classmate of Jan's younger brother, and Jan and I met in 80 or 83 as adults working on the Chicago Housing Authority Alumni Association project. And we were bound from that time on, and so up until this minute. And so we are both alumni from Chicago Housing Authority, Altgale Gardens, and I am
The
now
AG.
AG for life, AG for life.
AG for life.
And I have my husband and I just recently, a year ago, relocated to Arizona. So I'm now a resident of Goodyear, Arizona. And when we, talk and discuss how I made that change from Chicago, because nobody believed that I could do it, it was difficult, but we did it. We made up our mind about 4 years ago. That's what we were going to do, and then we did it. But and we were on to such a what we think of as the second half of our life that God has granted us. We're both retired. We're not ill. We had dreams and aspirations. We came out here. We built a house, and never in life would I have thought that I would actually have built a house, but we did. And so, just as we were getting ready to move, and just as we were starting our new life, the pandemic set in. And so the grief, we talked about the grief or the things that the losses that we suffer, and how we are coping with it. I get times I'm teary eyed. I mean, for about a month, I cried almost every night because it was like we're not going to be able to get out of this, and what are we going to do, and so many different things. But I woke up and said and read my scripture because I'm a dedicated, devoted person to the word. I am a Christian woman, and I opened the Bible, and this scripture that I'm using every day now is Matthew 5:4, and it says, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." So that's a scripture that I'm using to say that really there's nothing for me to mourn, but if I'm mourning, God is going to comfort me because we are living, breathing, talking, and all those things, all those plans that we had, they're just curtailed by the wayside for a little bit, and maybe some of those things we'll never do, but the loss of life that we've suffered and the loss of people coming down with this virus has caused a lot of us to go within our own cocoon because we don't know what else to do. And I
Yeah.
just feel bad for people who don't have anybody else with them because this is a difficult thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I sit up sometimes and I'm looking at television, and I knew I was losing it when I'm looking at television and I'm looking at a party on TV, and I'm saying to myself, they don't have on a mask and gloves, and then all of a sudden it hit me, girl, that's TV. This is not. There was a TV show, a party on a TV show, and I'm looking for a mask and gloves because now that's the norm. This is the way that we're living, and this is the way that we're going to live. So yeah, just like you, Jan, and especially with us moving out here to Arizona. I always had it in, as we made this transition, it was never a thought, never a doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be going back to Chicago at least once a year. And the once a year was going for the Oakdale weekend. I said, I'll tie everything in all together. Family, friends who I haven't seen, and then the Oakdale weekend picnic and the parties that we have that will culminate before I get ready to go back home. So I was already satisfied that that would hold me over for a year. Well, this year, after 43 years, the picnic had to be canceled. The dance had to be canceled. The all-white party had to be canceled. Seeing family had to be canceled. And, all the people going out and still saying that the airfares are low and the hotel fares are low. I'm not budging because I think that if we do what the doctors and the scientists say, that eventually some of this will be curtailed, but I'm just going to be obedient and stick to what I know and stay home. And I'm missing those, like you, missing the close friends, missing your son, missing our kids, missing vacations, because we had this wonderful Mother's Day Jamaica trip every other year that we would do. My daughter had put together, and it was celebrating mothers, and we had about 14 in our group. Everybody's looking forward to that. We had to cancel that. So and for as far as my life is concerned, everything's canceled for next year. I'm not even looking at that. But that Oakdale reunion that we discussed the other day about the effect that it has on so many of us. We're accustomed to traditions, and we're accustomed to things in our lives that we take for granted.
Yeah.
So some people for years would say, "Oh, I'll catch the picnic next year. Oh, I'll be at the party next year. Oh, I'm not going this year." Well, guess what? We couldn't go this year, and so if you didn't go last year, we don't know if you're going to ever go another year. We need to cherish those memories.
And that's very, very true. And so the picnic, let me describe the picnic to people. And let me describe about Altgeld and
Right.
Altgeld Gardens. And it's the Chicago Housing Authority project. Okay. It is the hood. but it was kind of isolated from the big city because it would right now actually it would be considered like a suburb because of where it's located.
Yes.
And it's row houses. Now there was the grammar school, and the high school, and most of us grew up out there. We moved out there, my mama and father, when I was 2 years old. And so I went to kindergarten, grammar school, high school. But the unique thing about that particular community is that we both have friends that we have had since we were like in fifth grade. Not fifth grade, I'm sorry, kindergarten. Yes, yeah, first grade and kindergarten. And so people move away, but every year we come back together with a big, huge picnic. And usually, like you say, the white party where we all wear white, and skating parties and everything, just to see the people that we grew up with. And it ended up really being a family, a big, huge family.
Family, yes.
And so when you talk about lifestyles, and you talk about coping, it's really difficult for a lot of us because sometimes that's the only time we get to see a lot of
Yes.
the people that we grew up with. And
Yes.
like you said, for people who say, okay, I'm not going this year, I'll go next year, whatever, that's a tradition that
Right.
is, we don't know when that's going to come about again.
We don't.
We really don't. We really don't. And so that's one of the things we're talking about is socialization. But what I want to do right now, Loisteen, I want to bring in my other guest.
Yes.
And then after I speak with her for a while, then the three of us will just chat and hopefully give some people some tips on how to cope and talk about some of the memories that we have as far as our lifestyles. And I'm definitely going to talk about something that I missed that I think I have an issue. And once I tell all of y'all about my issue, it's a lot of you women out there that have that same issue. But so right now, Loisteen, I'm going to put you back in the green room, and I'm going to bring out Carol Rodgers. Hi, Carol.
Hello, Jan. How are you?
I'm just great. How are you?
I am great.
Well,
Yeah.
tell the audience a little bit about you.
Okay.
This is a whole lot about you.
All right. My name is Carol Rodgers. I am a speech pathologist by trade, but I am an author, a speaker, and an actress by choice.
Woo.
So that is a little bit about me.
Well,
Now,
so you're an actor, but aren't you also an author?
yeah, I said author, speaker.
Okay, so what do you speak on?
I speak on empowering women.
Okay,
So that's mostly what I speak on: women's empowerment, self-esteem issues, things like that. Hmm.
so do you think that, and there's an echo, and I don't know why. Do you hear that echo? I do. So,
Yeah, a little.
okay. So do you think that when you talk about women and empowerment, do you think that during this time, during this pandemic, what effect do you think that has on women as far as their empowerment? Is it affecting it, do you think?
I think if there is a woman who has low self-esteem, I think it does affect, because if she's in the house and talking to herself, all that self-doubt we have, and, you know, trying to talk ourselves out of doing something that we should be doing or into something we should be doing. And then there's no one to encourage them, so that kind of does affect the person.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, as far as you're an author, tell me about your books.
I've done several collaborations, and right now I'm in the process of working on two books. One has no title. I just chucked the title today. The other one
Well,
is
okay, before you go to the next one, the one with no title, what's it about?
it's about three women and the issues they had. The issues of again, self-esteem, but it's more more about their self-esteem and how they found themselves, how they woke up to see, where they were and where they needed to be and how they got there.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the one. I'm actually working on both of them at the same time. The other one is called The Insider's Guide to What You Should Know Before a Medical Emergency. And that one should be complete by the end of the month.
Okay.
That one came about because of my dad. My dad, about a year ago, he got sick. And he was really, really sick, and we didn't know whether he was going to live or die. And so we had to go. There's 7 of us, and only 6 of us could help out. One did what she could, and but there were the 5 of us who were there like all the time. And I live in Indiana, and he lives in the city of Chicago. So I was going over there every single day. And he got to the point where he could not walk. That we did everything that we could do, for him. We had to wheel him to the bathroom, but his chair was so wide and their bathroom was so small that he couldn't get in. Then my sisters and we had to help him out of the chair and have him to hold on to the vanity to try to pull himself over to the bathroom. And sometimes, he would get just back to the chair and almost fall, and we could not pick him up. So we had to call my brother to come and get him. And then we wheel him back to his room, and not even 5 minutes later, he had to go again. And so it got to the point where all of a sudden he just went out somewhere. I don't know. So we called the paramedics. And the paramedics came and they asked us all these questions. And of course, they asked him questions, what day is it? Who's the president? To rule out a stroke. So they wanted to know what his medications were, what his social security number was, what his, did I say medications? Yeah. So anyway, that was the paramedics. So we get to the hospital, and they want to know the same things, and they want to know more. Well, these are things you should be prepared for, especially if you have an older parent.
Okay.
You need to know every single thing. You need to know their insurance companies, where the name of the insurance company, if they have Medicare or if they have Medicare Advantage. You need to know all those things. And then you also need to have a power of attorney.
Okay.
So these are all things that I put in the book. So, he got better. He came home for about a year. And right at the beginning of the COVID-19, he got sick again. And we took him to the hospital, and they allowed me to stay in the emergency room with him. But when he finally got a room, I was not able to go. We were not able to visit him. And then as he got worse, they wanted me to sign a DNR because I was his power of attorney. And I didn't want to do that because he didn't want that. And I talked with my mother and my siblings about it, and nobody wanted to do it, but he continued to get worse. So they told us that we could put him in hospice and he would get the same care. They would just make him, a little more comfortable. They would still try to fight the infection that he had. He didn't have COVID, though. He had a hernia that was about the size of a basketball.
Oh.
And it was infected. And so anyway, all of that happened, and there were so many other things that came up, and I just wrote everything down, and I put it in a book, so if anybody else went through that, they would know. So how the COVID virus has affected me, well, my dad died in the midst of it. We were not able to be there with him when he passed away. We were not able to have a funeral, which I'm really sad about. And we were able to be at the grave site, but not the funeral directors, the cemetery directors, they were very, very rude.
Oh.
And they only allowed so many people out of the cars. But if they had stepped back, then more people could have come out and just stood around the grave at a time. And so all of that, what you need to do, how you need to handle all those situations, and all of that's in the book.
It sounds like a very, very informative book and an educational book that it will. I think it should be a bestseller. It will be a bestseller because all of us go through that, especially now. We've gone through it. I went through it before COVID-19, but right now, when we talk about coping, so Carol, how are you coping with all of this? How are you coping? What do you do, to keep from just going?
Well, as far as with the death of my father, because again, I was his power of attorney, so I had to handle everything. The doctors and the nurses called me every day. My mom called me, my brothers and sisters. It was just a mess. In addition, my daughter had moved back in with her husband and a dog and his niece. And there was me and my husband and my son. And then her husband has 2 children. So there's all of us in here. And initially it was okay because I like to be around a lot of people. At least I wasn't alone by myself. But now I have to get out of here. And then I had a nephew who called me and he said, Auntie Carol, can I move in with you? Can you move in? So I was coping pretty well because I'm working on these 2 books, right? So that kind of, took my attention, but I also needed to visit my mom, and she does not go outside unless she's going to the doctors. So it was a lot of things going on. So initially it was fine. I was good with it. But now I have deadlines to meet and everybody is noisy and I'm surprised that they're gone right now. So you don't hear the noise. But I think it's just a mindset, You have to find something to occupy your time and your mind, people say you can only watch so much television and that's true, but take up a hobby, take up a class, do whatever you can do to keep your mind, occupied and not, to the point where it's just wearing you down.
So when we're talking like you is before COVID, and I guess it was just you and your husband living in the house. Is that correct? And then, well, I know your daughter and your husband moved in, and now that the pandemic, I know one thing. I know you miss your dad and being there and being him being there, and your mom living someplace else, and the physical contact is limited. So what you're doing really to cope with everything is you're involved in your projects, in your writing your books and.
Yeah, I've done 2 murder mysteries.
Oh.
Yeah, I've done 2 online murder mysteries. And I've been rehearsing for another play. So, that kind of keeps me busy. So when I go to bed at night,
Uh,
trust me, I am tired, I'm worn out because I am keeping busy,
okay.
even on the inside.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
That's very good. I think that's something that people should think about as far as like hobbies and different things like that. Now, I know that you and your husband travel or used to travel. So is that something that you miss, and how are you coping with um, do you ever think about the fact that you can't go where, because I think you told me one time about some big trip you all were supposed to go on.
Yeah, we go somewhere maybe once a year, the two of us, but I go all year round.
Okay.
So, and the biggest thing I missed was my trip to Dubai. I was going to go to Dubai for the first time, and I was going to take a cruise once I got there. And so, of course, that was canceled. And then I was going to go, I was supposed to go, I think, to Connecticut this year. And my nephew was supposed to graduate from law school. I was going to go there. And other places, little small places that he and I were going to go,
Mhm.
we just can't go right now. But, I look at it like this. It's better to be safe than sorry. And I would rather suffer a little bit inside than to catch that virus and suffer in the hospital alone.
You're exactly right. So
Hmm.
right now, what I'm going to do is take a little time out for my sponsors, and then I'm going to bring Loisteen back in, and then the three of us we're going to have a nice little chit chat about other ways that we're coping and other things that we are missing. So everyone, we'll be right back. So if you're living in the Chicagoland area and you're looking to buy a house or you're looking to sell your house, you can get in contact with my sponsor. I will run her commercial again. So just in case you didn't get a chance to write down her information, you'll get a chance to write down information. I highly recommend her. And my other sponsor this evening is Coffee, Tea, and Me. All righty. Now I'm going to bring back in Loisteen, and I'm going to bring back in Carol. And now let us have a nice conversation. So we talked about, this is all about changes in lifestyle. And we all have different things that we did beforehand and things that we cannot do. And earlier I said I had this issue, and it's something that I really, really, really miss. And that is shoe shopping. When I said I have an issue, I mean I have an issue. I miss, that might be weird to some people, but I miss going into department stores, going into the shoe section, and just spending at least a couple of hours just going through the shoes and usually coming out with a couple of pair of shoes, maybe even more.
Mhm.
And it's something, and not just by myself, but with my friends, just going shopping. And and even though for some people it might sound frivolous, or it might sound, well, that's not anything, but still that was part of my lifestyle. That was
Mhm.
something
Right.
that I love to do. And
Mhm.
so how do I cope with that? Oh, I'm weaning myself. I'm staying off of the pages, the advertisements, and I'm not going. But what I found now that I'm no longer working and I'm no longer doing a lot of networking, I'm not doing a lot of speaking. I look at all of these shoes and it's like, you know what? Kind of ridiculous. What I really don't need all of those things. So I want to ask both of you, now that you're really inside, so to speak, and you're not doing a lot of outside activities, what is it that you really kind of miss the most as far as your activities are concerned?
Well, for me, I stopped shopping about 10 years ago. Really, literally, I stopped shopping. And so
Well,
the
isn't
things
that
that I
when you
had,
retired?
just before I retired, actually, and it came from a scripture about all the stuff that we have that you don't need.
Mhm,
So I
mhm,
really stopped shopping like that. So
mhm.
I really don't miss the shopping. And once we made the relocation here, I got rid of 50 years of stuff, before we got here. But then when we got ready to move, once our house was ready here and it was time for us to move, the stuff that I did bring with me, I realized that this pandemic, I'm not gonna need that stuff anymore. So I still took 18 bags of clothes to and shoes to Goodwill. That was in March. And so I don't really miss the shopping, but what I do miss is three things that I really miss. And the first thing is being able to be and see and touch and kiss and hug my family. That's number one. And number two, I miss my church fellowship because I was so involved in so many different things. But that fellowship, with your people, the same people thinking like you and talking like you, I miss that. But like you with those shoes, what I really, really miss is spa treatment.
Oh,
Being
yes,
being taken care of. My
yes,
hair, everybody knows
yes.
me for my hair, my nails, and my feet. That's what I really, 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 really miss. But again, like you said, it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm not going anywhere. So I bought a dryer. I bought all the stuff that I need for my hair. We bought clippers. My husband does my hair and I do his, and I do his pedicure and manicure and my pedicure and manicure. And by the time this is over, we're going to open up a shop because because if he can tell me what number clipper to use on his hair and I can tell him for mine, you see, this is no longer a perm. And I had told everybody, when I die, two things I want you to do, and that's to put the perm in the casket and the phone book, because I need to still communicate. But now it's no more perm. So yeah, I miss the socializing, the celebrations, the graduations, the family gatherings. I really miss visiting the elderly.
Okay.
And people, right now, I just want everybody, whoever's listening to us, whatever it is that you're grieving, for me, it's really difficult about the elderly, the people in the nursing home, and we have family members in senior citizen buildings or assisted living that it's difficult for you to communicate with them, and it's difficult for them to understand what's going on with this pandemic, because we got a 94-year-old aunt, a 80-year-old aunt, cousin that's 80, and another aunt that's 78, and they're all are suffering with some kind of ailment. And so when you try to figure out what you're going to do with your loved one or how you're going to help them, and I'm listening to Carolyn talk about with her dad, because I went through that, you went through that, Janice, the same thing. Now my heart is touched, because it's so many people in the nursing homes or in the senior building that don't have anybody to visit them.
Very true.
And
Yeah.
and so, to, like Carol said, for your dad to die alone, that's the worst possible feeling that you could have, because you're still alive. So
Yeah.
it's just, those kind of things. I really miss my seniors, because I always went to visit. And so what I try to do now is, with this, I got a list. I told Janice this. I have a list. I got a weekly list of people that I'm calling just to keep in touch, or email them or text them just to keep in touch, because I need that human contact. So we've arranged with our family that we meet weekly or semi-weekly on Messenger, so we can see each other's
Oh,
face. And I got a couple, 3 or 4 other girl groups that we meet on Zoom. We meet on House Party. We meet on Duo. So everybody's got their own little niche.
okay.
FaceTime, we do. If I can just see your face, I'm gonna settle with seeing your face, because I can't touch you. So
Okay.
that's where we're living with right now.
All right. So, Carol,
Uh-huh.
what is it that you really miss the most? That tell me, tell us.
Well, I miss getting my hair done. I I had just started going back to the hairdresser. And the one I go to, the same one you go to, and she is really good. And so I have to kind of, do it myself now. But I also miss, believe it or not, I love to entertain.
Oh,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I miss being able to entertain, and I miss us being able to get together as a family, because we had just said that we were going to start meeting once a month, my family, and we didn't get to it because COVID beat us, So, but anyway, I'm like you, Loisteen. I'm at the point now where I'm ready to go back to church. I want to hear a good sermon. And I want to see, my church members. So, yeah, those are some kind of things I miss. However, let me say this, as far as my dad, we did not get to give him a service, but we were going to do it around his birthday, which is in September. However, that has been pushed back because
yeah.
we
Because of
want
COVID.
to, yeah, we want to honor him properly. And we don't want to just have something where it's, 10 people here and, maybe 12 over there, because my dad was such a great man, and so many people want to come to honor him, just like we do. So we want to do it right. So anyway, yeah, that's the main thing I miss. I want to go get this hair done.
well, just a little note.
And a massage.
Oh, girl, tell me
Yes,
about
that massage.
Yes.
That
I
massage.
miss my massages. And just a note, Carol, that I did text our beautician, and she said she's coming back the first week in September.
All right now.
Well,
Look,
I tell
let
you,
me take my vitamin C, my
so
garlic,
you can get.
my everything, and be ready.
I have
Okay.
two beauticians, and they
So, you
called
know,
me.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Loisteen.
No, I was saying I have two beauticians, and they called me, but I'm telling you, I'm just not doing it. I'm just gonna keep on keeping on until one day we figure it out. And Carol, I did want to say this to you about the service. I because I help people with so many funerals, and I write obituaries, and I do all that stuff. And I one young lady was talking about how her family was on her because she had canceled everything and just had a viewing, and then she cremated her mom according to her mother's wishes, and that she felt so much better after she talked to me. Because if we all just understand that once a loved one passes away, uh, whatever it is that you want to do later, it doesn't matter how long a time it is. If you want to have that celebration and it's 5 years from now, you can do that. But
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
don't have to have a time limit on trying to do it right now. So if people would
Right.
be encouraged with that word, it would, that would help a whole lot of people, because we don't have to rush into this. Several of my friends died in this COVID going to funerals. And so
Hmm.
we just, if we keep that in our mind. But yeah, that spa, Jan, that spa, that spa, that spa. So
Yes.
whatever. When I told my husband, I said, now we got the hair mastered and the manicures and the pedicures. Now you're gonna have to start doing some massages, because I'm going to get all the stuff.
Well, you know what? Now that's a very good idea. I'm going to tell Mr. Portman, who's sitting over here, that you better master that art of massage, because I miss that too. So, it's all kinds of ways that we're coping. And I know I also miss church. And what we're doing for all of us in my congregation to cope with the fact that we can't really see each other and be in each other's physical presence is that we do Zoom services. We do Sunday morning service, and we also do weekly Bible studies. And I know that some people I see here in my neighborhood, uh, as far as graduations, there were uh, quite a few young people who graduated, and I asked them, how are you coping with the fact, and your parents, with the fact that you can't walk across the stage, and they all said, you know what, the most important thing was that my family is around me. And so what they did, they had car parades, and a couple of them told me, well, I even like that better than walking across the
Right,
stage,
right,
And so when you think about it, it's like a mindset. And I know that it's hard for like Loisteen, you're married, you have your husband with you, and Carol, you got a house full of people, you know, and and then I have my husband, and my son is a little bit far from me, but I know that it's difficult for people who live alone, um,
Mhm.
and 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 are sociable people. They
Hmm.
are
Mhm.
having a difficult time,
Yes.
coping. Now, I know some people that I talk with said, you know what, I found out that I'm an introvert, that I've been waiting for this, and that I don't have to be around people. I'm enjoying here
Hmm.
in my house by myself doing
Hmm.
Mhm.
different things. So it's all kinds of ways to cope with that loss of lifestyle. So what
Hmm.
I want to do, I want to uh, my sponsors. I want to put them back on just for a couple of minutes. And then we're going to come back, and we got about 5 minutes, and we're going to kind of wrap up a little bit. But what I want you to be thinking about is, what is your message to those who are having difficulties coping with the changes in their lifestyles as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So, but right now, I'm going to have another word from our sponsors. If you would like to be a sponsor for this show and increase your visibility, please contact us at 1-877-667-7325. Again, 1-877-667-7325. So Loisteen and Carol, just quickly, give me what advice that and what message you would give to those who are coping with COVID-19 and their changes in lifestyle.
Go on, Carol.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I would just say that, as they say, hold on, change is coming. This COVID didn't come to stay, it came to pass. Mm-hmm. That's what I say about that. And may I quickly say, one thing that did come about for me was I was able to create a group with two lovely friends called the Gold Shoe Society, which you can find on Facebook at the Gold Shoe Society. But if you want to become a member of the group, it's Gold Shoe Society.
And Gold Shoe Society is for?
The Gold Shoe Society is for women 50 and above, because we want to show that we are still kicking, and we're kicking high, and that we are not to be dismissed because the beautiful young things are walking around, and because we are over 40, we still have a lot to offer, and we show we have a lot to offer.
Thank you on that. And Loisteen, what message would you give?
My message would be that just continue to praise and thank God that we are here and that He's allowed us another day. Because each day, as we look at the news and the elected officials and listen to innuendo and look at social media, you can get so discouraged. You don't know which way to turn.
Exactly.
But, my favorite scripture, Proverbs 3:5-6. So He will direct our path if we allow Him to. And so that really, I don't know, who isn't a Christian, who isn't a believer, but I'm a believer. And so I know that this too shall pass. And as we cope every day, just think about all of those people who are less fortunate than you.
Yes.
And as we help those that are less fortunate than us, our blessings will continue to be bestowed upon us. And that is. And I just want to thank you, Jan, because today is the first day that I put on lipstick, earrings, and spruced up since March. Makeup. I put on makeup today.
And we have someone, Sarah Crowley, who's given us some suggestions for people who are suffering and who are grieving their loss of lifestyle. She says, meditate, breathe deeply, declutter your mind, journal, positive thinking, take a nap,
Yep.
create something new, because you are a stronger version. You are a stronger version of you unfolding.
Yeah.
Be amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate that. That's something that I think that a lot of us can take. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit about how I've been spending my time. Ah, that is my book. I am also an author, and the title of my book is The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. And it's all about this. You can't hear me? Oh my God, what's happening? Well, you can't hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
You can hear me.
Now I can't.
Loisteen can.
No, I can't.
Oh, okay. So it's The Secret to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. And it's about the challenges in the relationship between adult daughters and their moms. And I wrote that book, and I think it's especially good for right now during COVID-19, because a lot of us really, we are at home and we are close together. And sometimes we kind of get on, we love each other, but sometimes we get on each other's nerves a little bit. And so that book gives you some tips and some tools. There's some humor in it. There's some stress relievers in it. And it's available on Amazon.com. So it's, this hour went by so fast. Wow, but I have enjoyed both of you. I really, really, really have. And I want to thank you for being guests on my show. And I want to thank all of the listeners or I should say the viewers, and there are some listeners, for tuning in. This is the Relationship Matters Show. And what we do, we talk about all kinds of relationships. We talk about personal relationships. We talk about business relationships. Now, on my next show, which will be September 2nd, because I do my show bi-weekly, we're going to come off of COVID-19. But guess what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about eating properly while we're here, so we won't be, passing up, going by the refrigerator and opening up and pulling something out and eating unhealthy foods all the time. And I really need that because I have a sweet tooth. And we're going to talk about your skin. So we're going to talk about from the inside out how you can make yourself feel better and look better during this COVID-19. So I want to thank you all again for tuning in, for viewing. I'd like to thank my two guests again, Loisteen Walker and also Carol Rodgers. And I want to say, women over 50, come on, join Gold Shoe Society. All right, everybody, stay safe and be blessed. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Woo.